And it is live at 9 on a Wednesday morning in Jasper, Alabama. James Phillips here on WJLX, and I'm joined this morning by Pastor Alan Bailey. Do we say pastor? Is that the best thing to say?
You can call me anything.
I can just say my friend Alan
Yeah, you can
Bailey.
say Alan. That's fine with me.
But Alan's joining us today, and we go back. We were just talking about how far we go back, and I don't remember what year it was, but you were on a reality show on TLC, I think it was.
Yeah, it was before TLC. It was when Discovery had multiple channels, and it was Discovery Health.
I remember that now, yeah.
Yeah, that's why it was so hard to find, but it was Discovery Health. Yeah, that was an interesting moment.
Yeah, and for people who don't know, the show was about families with large families,
Yeah.
multiple children, and Alan and his wife, you guys have 10 children?
We have 10 children.
Yeah. And so at that time, it was a show with another big family in Birmingham, and we did when I worked at the newspaper, did a story on it coming out and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I think we just kind of hit it off that day.
Yeah, we had a great time, and the funny thing was, it was just one of those situations where right after that, they started pursuing us for a show, so there was a lot of buzz around that, but it wasn't anything I really wanted to put my family through, so we pulled out real fast.
That's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
Life could have changed.
Yeah. We saw everybody else's family starting to fall apart, so we were like, I don't know if this is good for us.
Right, and so what you guys did was go into the ministry and start Gathering Ministries, which is located in an old bingo hall right by the Warrior River Bridge.
Yep.
And I guess you guys started Gathering Ministries in 2003?
We started in 2003 in my living room.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then moved into the bingo hall when?
In 2011.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so we spent a few years in a little storefront over behind the Big Lots area.
Right, okay.
But we were there for a little while, but we moved into the bingo hall, and it's been great, and it's just uptick ever since. So
No, I haven't been in several years. I haven't visited in several years, so that's
heathen.
I know it's bad. I'm as backslidden as you get. But my favorite thing about it when you guys first moved in was the carpet.
Yes.
Y'all had like fireworks on the carpet.
Yeah, it was 3D carpet. You'd put the black lights on in the bingo hall, and the carpet looked like it was floating.
Yeah.
So yeah, we still have it in the kids' room.
Oh, do you really?
We finally took it out of the sanctuary last year.
Oh,
we
just
left it
last
in
year.
forever.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was I remember because I think I came to the first service or one of the first services.
Yeah, you were there for 2 or 3 of them. Yeah.
And it was so cool to walk in and see the 3D carpet popping out at you.
Like a skating rink.
Right. Yeah, that is exactly what it was like.
Yeah.
And that was the only time I'd never really gone in bingo halls. They wouldn't hardly let me in because they thought I was up to something.
Yeah.
Working for the paper.
Yeah, you're gonna report some nefarious activities.
Right. And I didn't have any money to blow.
Oh, yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Well, we talked a couple weeks ago, and you told me that you have a new book out, and I didn't. Is this your first book?
This is my first book. Yeah.
Wow, how about that?
Yeah. Now I have several. This is just the first one I've published.
Right. Yeah. Well, you're like me. There's a lot floating around up here.
Right.
But getting it out on paper is a different story.
That's right. That's right.
Tell me about it. Tell me about the book, Unstuck: 6 Steps to Freedom in Every Area of Life. Where did the idea come from?
So I noticed a pattern, and I'm one of those guys that even early on in my salvation, because I didn't grow up in church. So for me, when I came into the church, I wasn't conditioned, I guess, to just listen to the preacher and say that's it and go home. I take introspection, personal. I want to know what I know, why I know it. But in doing that, I noticed a pattern in my life over the years, even when coming up in my salvation and into becoming a youth pastor and eventually pastoring. I noticed that we preach a lot about wholeness, and I believe that's real.
Right.
I do. I also believe that it's almost impossible to be whole in every area at one time, because everybody's soul is damaged differently. And we're really good at talking about spiritual stuff, and we're really good at talking about physical stuff, healing and sickness and disease and ending your race, but we never really deal with the actual soul of right now.
Right.
It's always eternity or past.
Right.
And I noticed that
all of us are living right now.
right now.
Yeah.
And see, that's where my ministry is very different from a lot. I want to deal with right now.
Yeah.
People will always say, what about end times? What about this? Well, the rapture hadn't happened yet today.
Right.
You know.
It's supposed to happen yesterday.
Yeah, it was supposed to. Yeah, I know. I hope we didn't get leave. We might have been left out.
If we did, there's a lot of us still here.
Yeah, we're still here. TJ's here too.
Yeah.
But no, I'm kidding. But I noticed the pattern of I could be completely okay in one area. Let's just say I understand tithing, I understand giving. So in my financial life, I'm okay. So when it comes to, let's just say, walking in the love walk, I wasn't quite as okay as over here, or not quite as peaceful, or my body's struggling. So why is it that if I'm really good in one area, why shouldn't I be good in all areas? If I'm reading my word, if I'm studying every day, if I'm praying. And that's where this came from. I realized that Jesus went through 6 steps. And he went through, and it basically lays out the fact that he was crucified, he died, he was buried. That's the physical side.
Right.
Then he was quickened, he was raised, and he was seated. So at some point in your life, whatever you're dealing with is in one of those 6 places. And
Right.
that was the pattern I noticed. I noticed that, okay, maybe because I understand tithing and I understand giving and I understand generosity, maybe I'm over here in this raised and seated area and I'm doing pretty good, but I'm still over here in this dying process when it comes to the love walk.
Right.
And that's where it came from, because I realized every part of my life was on a different step, but I'm trying to take preaching and be whole at once instead of dealing with the different facets of my life.
Right.
And does that make sense?
Yeah,
Sometimes we try to do everything at one time, and it's just impossible.
Yeah.
And so that's where this came from. I learned to take it step by step in every part of my life. And it's you start over an area. Sometimes you'll get wounded, and you think, you've got this forgiveness thing down, and then somebody will wound you or something will happen, and you realize there's still some
Right.
dirt in that heart you've got to clean out.
Yeah.
And I think that is the walk. I think that is the walk of faith. I don't think there's ever a moment that you ever arrive. I don't think there's a there.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Because depending on what life's throwing at you that day,
Right.
there's going to be parts where you realize, oh, maybe I am a step behind
Right.
in that, where
Yeah.
I didn't think I was.
Well, and you realize you're in your feelings, you're not in your faith.
Right.
And that's the big one sometimes, especially I'm the Pentecostal guy.
Right.
So I get, sometimes we call our feelings spiritual, and they're not.
Right. Sometimes it's just emotion.
Sometimes it's just an emotion, and it's okay to have them. It's just it's not okay for them to rule you.
Right. For them to take control.
And you realize when you're recognizing these steps, you realize where you're at in your emotions versus your faith. That's the whole premise. That's where it came from.
Right. Now, what kind of time did it take to write the book?
Here's a cool story. I actually didn't write it. I preached it. So on an Easter Sunday a few years ago, I started with just the unstuck. Just one service. I'm going to deal with what I just talked to you about.
Right.
And 13 weeks later, we finished.
Yeah.
So we ended up every Sunday dealing with the next step. And I didn't plan it that way. It just did. So we took those messages and we transcribed them down, put them in order, cleaned them up, and made sure they could read well.
Right.
And that's where the book came from.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And on my way in this morning, I was thinking in my head about pastors. It's a job where you do a ton of writing to
Right.
get ready for a sermon
Right.
to speak.
Yeah.
Well, so it only makes sense.
I don't. Some people do.
Right. But it only makes sense that it would come from a sermon series or something
Right.
along those lines, that you're putting out, you're creating something.
Right.
And so to be able to turn that into a book is a neat way to do
Yeah.
it.
And I didn't realize, I just did that on the fly. I didn't, that was just the idea I had to do it. But I didn't realize until I started the publishing process that Oral Roberts, Dad Hagen, Charles Stanley, all these guys did the same thing. They took their preaching and just turned it into books. And all this time I'm thinking, man, they're sitting there typing out a book all this year.
Right.
All I got to do is talk. I can do that.
They're doing both jobs. What do I do to this?
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense, though, to be able to do it that way.
Yeah.
And what was it that put this at the forefront? Because you do have other ideas, and I'm sure you have other stuff already written down. What made Unstuck the thing to go with first?
I just couldn't get away from it. Even now, it's been published for a couple of years, and it's just on Amazon. But even now, it's still something I have people call me. I have people message me and just, I've got one lady, super sweet lady, and she'll just send me a random message that says, I'm doing good, but I got to go back to step 3.
Yeah.
That means for me, that blesses me because that means they're understanding that this is applicable to everyday life. This is not just a book that you read and say, oh, I learned something to keep, for me, even me, I have to go back to it and remind myself, okay, if you're struggling, find out why. Check your heart first. Find what the issue is and work through the issue. Don't just deal with the problem, work through the issue.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's almost like a daily workbook. I've actually toyed with the idea of taking it and making it into like a devotional.
Right.
Because it does deal with everyday life.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think that's the thing about when I've heard you preach, everything seems to be pretty applicable.
Yes, sir.
It's like on every given Sunday, it's something that is going on in people's lives, and mainly from your own life.
Right.
It's not that the Pastor Allen's that perfect guy up there.
No.
He's pretty honest. Most of the time.
I'm pretty black and white.
Yeah.
The thing is when I stepped into ministry, all of us say the same thing. It wasn't my choice. God called me to it. But I've always had the mindset that I need something for right now. It doesn't mean that I pull away from stories in the Bible or even dealing with prophetic utterances and different things that's happening right now in our timeline. I understand all of those things, but on Sunday, the majority of the people that walk into my church on Sunday, I have to think like this. I can't think, okay, I need to give them a word that's going to help them understand the coming nature of the political process. What I need to do is recognize I got single moms.
Right.
That are struggling financially. Yeah, I've got men who are exhausted from working, their tails off trying to make ends meet. I got somebody who's just lost their husband. I have to think through that process.
Yeah. And
then before I walk out of my office, I'm like, God, you got to help me help the people, not to preach. Help me help the people, and that's where I guess you would say style came from, because I feel like it should be anecdotal. I think it should deal with what's in the room. Right. Instead of just making you sound like a good preacher.
Well, and I honestly think in talking about the present, and if you look at the way Jesus taught the same way. He taught about the present time. He talked about this is how to live life.
Right.
And I think we miss that sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and it helps people when you're using your own life.
Right.
I have 10 kids, so I have plenty of stories to pull from. You got the kids are like, oh God, here he goes. There's plenty of things to bring up.
Right.
But that is really the majority of the people in our church. If I hear anything, and I'm the guy that keeps walking whether you talk bad about me or talk good about me, because I know that can change at any moment. Right. But the majority of what I hear from people that come into our church is that everything is relatable, and that there's no. They don't look at us as if we're on a higher level, because that's not true. Yeah. We're all walking this walk of faith. We're just walking it differently. Right. Yeah. So.
And we all should be ministers in some form or fashion. Yeah. If we're walking that walk.
That's right. Your life should preach it.
Right.
Your life should preach it, and people should see something in you that they desire. Right. And again, that's part of it in the book. If they don't see that, then we have to go back and check the heart and say, okay, why? Why are we not looking at this properly? Why are we struggling in this area, but over here we seem to be fine? Yeah. And I think that's been a struggle with a lot of people, because they will come in and they'll say, it's like everything's okay, but I have these 2 or 3 areas that I struggle in. It's because they've never slowed down to look at the root of it. They're just dealing with symptoms. Right. And when you just deal with symptoms, you're not ever going to get fixed. And that's just, I don't know, man. I've just learned how to... and I don't know if it's good or bad, James. I've just learned how to just relate from where I'm at. Right. And I don't have an explosive 1,000-member church. I just, I have 50 to 100 people, and I love them. They love me, and we talk about Jesus all the time.
I think that's the way it's meant to be.
I think so. Yeah.
You talked earlier. You mentioned how you didn't grow up in church.
No.
And got into ministry. How big a hellraiser were you?
You're going to bring that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
I've seen pictures.
Yeah. It was bad.
Yeah.
It was bad. So my father passed away when I was 12. And that sent me off because until that time, he had gotten saved. Right when he found out he had cancer, he had gotten saved. And for about a year and a half, we did go to church, Friendship Baptist Church, Grand Bay, Alabama, and loved it. I mean, I had a good time. I mean, but just it was just going with my dad to church.
Right.
And when he passed away, we had the guy who did the service. It innocently, very innocently, made about a 20-minute message on how God needed another angel in heaven.
Right.
Well, that's ridiculous.
Right. Yeah.
That's
there was a 12-year-old boy that needed the dad.
Yeah. If God needed my dad more than I did, I hate that God.
Right.
That was the mindset that was put in me at my dad's funeral, and I just went from there on as far as I could go into sin. I went into it.
Yeah.
And so I played
I
music.
heard you graduated with honors at,
I did.
At Sin Academy.
Yeah, I got the T-shirt too.
Yeah.
And but yeah, so I just at 14, 15, 16 years old, I was playing music, traveling around. I mean, I can't go in the clubs legally, so they're sneaking me in the back to put me on the drum set to play with the band, and all these different things I was doing on top of running dope and doing dope, and you name it, I was experimenting with it, and it just. For me, that was okay, and that was normal life, because I jumped into it so early that was just how I was going to live, and in my opinion, that's how I was going to die.
Yeah.
And when I met my wife, April, her brother was my bass player in my band, and we were 2 weeks from a record deal. We were fixing to go on a club tour with another band. If I mentioned them, you know who they were, but I'm not allowed to do that anymore. But we had a lot of things in order, and I was fixing to be where I've always wanted to be, and found myself in a Pentecostal camp meeting with Perry Stone, and everything changed that night. And so as far as I went into sin is as far as I want to go into faith.
Right.
And that's my strive right now is I've been doing this now over 30 years, but from helping in church to youth pastoring, now pastoring, but honestly, that's where it came from, because I don't look at church as just something we have to do on Sunday. It's a choice.
Right.
And if they're choosing to come here, I need to give them something so I can look back at that 12-year-old little boy and I can recognize pain that nobody else saw. So I'm able to pull from those areas and minister along those lines and hopefully make a change, make a difference in somebody's life.
What was that wake-up moment that night at that camp meeting?
So that's a funny story. I was sitting in there. Now understand, I'd never been in a Pentecostal church in my life. So
you're probably scared to death.
I was in the insane asylum. I'm like, what in the world is going on?
Yeah.
And so they had me sitting on the second row, which if I had my choice, I'd been in the back row. But
Right.
They had me on the second row. And my wife was sitting next to me, and all her church prayer group ladies were all around. So I couldn't get out, like I was imprisoned.
Yeah, you were stuck there.
Yeah. And so he was preaching on God using broken vessels. I remember the title. I don't remember the message, but I remember the title. And I was just sitting there, and my wife, she didn't push the envelope. She was never that person of, you need to get saved or we're going to get divorced,
Right.
She just prayed. She just prayed with me, and I was like, I can't believe I'm here. Now let me set the stage. You've seen my picture. So
for everybody who doesn't know, he's got a driver's license photo that he likes to show off, and I mean, it is long hair. He looks like he was in Motley Crue at the time or something like that.
Well, I basically was, just different name.
Right.
But so long hair, the earrings, I smelled like pot, and had on the Metallica Kill 'Em All shirt, and I'm sitting on second row.
Yeah.
And so they gave the altar call, and I knew, if you've ever been in a real service where God's there, and I mean, because we have a lot of services that God's not in, but I'm talking about a real service.
Right.
And I knew that God was stirring my heart. I knew that. And so I went up to the front and just gave my life to the Lord. There was several. My Lord, there was probably 40, 50 people. It's a huge revival.
Right.
And they were all giving their life to Jesus. And in that season, they didn't just do it corporately. Somebody came up and led you.
Right.
Now you gotta understand how I look. And what people are seeing. Now, these are church people, and I'm not.
Yeah.
So everybody up there had somebody laying hands on their back and praying over them, except me. Nobody wanted to get near me.
And in those days, that wasn't where you could go to a church like your church or Desperation
No.
Church, where people looked like that. At
No,
church.
not at all. No,
Yeah.
I was, yeah.
You were definitely standing out.
I was standing out.
Yeah.
And so finally, this old gentleman, and I'm just saying, man, I think it was Methuselah. He was like 150 years old, and it took him a minute to get to me.
Yeah.
But he finally came up and he got to me, and first of all, he apologized for his church. He said, "I'm sorry, nobody's praying with you," which I that gave me some integrity with him. I thought, that's pretty cool.
Right.
And then he said, "What do you want? What are you up here for?" And I said, "I don't even know." And he just led me through the sinner's prayer, and most pure man I've never talked to him again in my life, but he was just so pure at that moment, and he led me to Jesus, and I accepted Jesus as my Savior, and so I turned around to go sit down. Well, I didn't know in Pentecostal church that's not allowed.
Yeah.
You got to
Somebody grabbed you before you got back to the
Yeah, yeah. They said, no, you got to stay up here, and I'm like, wait, what? What are we staying up here for?
Yeah.
And then, of course, the speaker comes off the stage, and that's back when TBN was really blowing and going. And
Yeah.
in the '90s and early 2000s, the church, they had it easy. It was revival everywhere. People didn't know they had it easy, but they had it easy.
Right.
And so they're coming down through the crowd with the big camera on the shoulder, and the big boom mic. And
Yeah.
what'd God do for you tonight?
Yeah.
Well, when they got to me, I was already mad because they wouldn't let me go sit down. And again, James, is back to the book, because I was now saved, but I wasn't renewed.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My heart had accepted Jesus, but I wasn't Christ-like.
Right. Not in the least.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And so they get to me, and they put this camera in my face, a microphone in my face, and they said, "What'd God do for you tonight?" And I was angry.
Yeah.
And so I started cussing them out. Hot microphone. Sound man should have been fired.
Yeah.
They left the mic on.
Oh my goodness.
And I cussed him out. I mean, F-bombs here, there, just hitting him in his chest with my finger. And and he said to me, this went on for a minute.
Yeah.
And he said, the same thing the other guy said. He said, "What do you want?"
Right.
And I said, if your God, of course I'm using very colorful language.
Yeah.
I said, if your God can do anything, you let him do it to me. And I didn't get me out of my mouth. Now, this is where Pentecostal church has a flow.
Right.
But this is what's different. Nobody touched me. Nobody laid hands on me. There was no show.
Right.
I don't remember anything for the next hour.
Wow.
And when I finally, now I remember some spiritual stuff. There's things it's hard to articulate, but I remember. But an hour later, I remember opening my eyes, and I'm laying on the floor in that church. Nobody's in there but my wife. She's sitting on the pew right next to me crying,
Yeah.
praying. She's praying, "Oh, God, I got to go home with this guy. You got to do something. He's going to kill me for bringing him here." And there was one usher at the back door, and he was shaking his keys because he's ready to go home.
Yeah.
Didn't matter if I was getting free or not.
Right, yeah.
There's roast at the house. I got to go home and eat.
Yeah.
And so I got up, and I'm telling you, I have been a different person since that moment.
Yeah.
I've not drank, not smoked, no dope, nothing. I cussed a little,
Yeah.
but I'm just telling you, I had an encounter with God, and I don't know why it happened that way for me. I deal with people in rehabs and in the jail, and my wife teaches the Hope for Women and all the different things that we do, and they'll ask me, they say, why can't God do that for me? I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. The only thing that I can possibly think of is God had one shot with Alan.
Right. Yeah.
That was it. Because I was only going to,
You kind of went to appease her, didn't you?
I did. Well, I went, honestly, she will tell you, I told her on the phone at work that morning that I'll go, but I'll go to prove to you that your God's a joke.
Right.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
That he can't do anything.
Yeah.
And I was completely off base in that one.
See, you just let your big mouth get you in trouble.
Seems to be my life.
Yeah. That's exactly what
I need to put that on a shirt. My big mouth gets results. Not the right ones.
Not the one you expect.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's an incredible story. And, and it doesn't hit everybody like that. But
No.
I think I like the fact that you grew up not in church. And so that makes it where you kind of, you want to see it. You want to know why you believe it and things like that. I grew up in a Pentecostal church, and I think that's the reason that I want to see it, and I want to know the reason I believe something, because I've been in so many times where I'm like, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it becomes, and I can speak to this because I preach at them all over the country. It becomes, you can tell the learned behaviors.
Right. Yeah.
And and although I'm not church bashing at all, but there's a problem with learned behaviors because people like you and I that want what's real,
Yeah.
we shouldn't have to filter through that.
Right. Right. That's
And
true.
and when you really are hungry for something from God, it's sometimes when you're analytical, it's hard to get past your own mind to get to that spirit place where you can really hear what He's saying to you.
Oh yeah.
And that was and so for me, I'm grateful. Although it's a good story, but I'm grateful that it went that way for me because I had an encounter I can't deny.
Exactly.
And I had an encounter that no man or woman was involved in.
Right.
Nobody was praying for me. He was just talking to me.
Right. Yeah.
And nobody, whether it's a big ministry or small ministry, nobody can take credit for that. Nobody can put that on their Instagram. Nobody, you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It was just a moment that God said, okay, I got a plan for your life and this is my shot.
Yeah. You weren't a number for anybody other than God.
That's right.
At that point in time.
That's right. And that's why I pastor the way I do. Everybody wants growth. I mean, let's just be honest. Everybody wants their church to thrive and to not worry about money and not to struggle.
Right.
But the truth is that's not my main desire. My goal, I've pastored our church since we started it for no salary. I mean, I just love people.
Right.
And I want people to know that God's got a good plan for their life.
Yeah.
And you know, don't get me wrong, my church is good to me and they take care of me if I need it. But the truth is that could go away tomorrow.
Right.
And I would still be there just to tell people that God is good. Jesus is there to help them through every single thing. His blood was there to wash them clean and to help them through everyday life.
Yeah.
And that there is a scripture for everything they're going through. They just have to find it.
Right. Yeah.
And that's part of our job. Our job is to help them do that.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good place to take a break. I want to remind everybody we're talking to Pastor Alan Bailey of Gathering Ministries. And we'll take a quick break here on Live at 9, hear from our sponsors, and we'll be right back on WJLX.